Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is Matt with Redlegs Ramblings and the MLB Talk 101. Just wanted to talk a little bit today about Brandon Phillips and the idea that the rumor that's kind of just swirling around that he might be traded this offseason. Obviously, Brian Price was just hired as the Reds manager to replace Dusty Baker, and now you got this overwhelming sense, an overwhelming rumor that is being thrown out there that Brandon Phillips could possibly be traded in the offseason. Obviously, Brandon Phillips this past season, if you're not familiar, had some run-ins with had one run-in particular with C. Trent in Dusty Baker's office, where Brandon Phillips basically said some choice words about C. Trent because C. Trent had tweeted something about Brandon Phillips' numbers in one of the spots in the batting order because he was going to be moved to that spot. So naturally questions arise, how does this player do in this specific spot in the order? How does he do in specific situations in that spot in the order, and so on. So Brandon Phillips, I guess, kind of took offense to that and said some choice words to C. Trent in Dusty Baker's office. It was really just a really awkward moment because Dusty Baker kind of just smiled, laughed it off, didn't really stop anything that was said. Walt Jocketty even said just the other day that something should have been done to stop that, but nothing was done. Dusty Baker didn't do anything to diffuse the situation. It just kept going on and on and on until Brandon Phillips finally just left. Really just attacked C. Trent and tore him down personally. Didn't really have a basis other than C. Trent tweeting some stuff about how he did in that particular spot in the batting order, because those questions, like I said, naturally arise when someone's moved to a certain spot in the batting order from one spot to another and all that. So Dusty Baker didn't diffuse the situation, and something needed to have been done there, according to Walt Jocketty. And even from the fan perspective, watching that video where Dusty Baker just kind of laughed and didn't really say anything about the situation, it was really awkward watching it, just because I don't know. I felt like I was in the room in a sense. Watching that video, it was just a really tense moment, a really awkward moment. Like I said, Dusty Baker, again, just had this really awkward little grin on his face and didn't say much. He looked embarrassed to be in that room, in that situation, and all that. Also, you have the other Brandon Phillips controversy of this season, where he had said in a magazine interview that he was kind of upset about the contract that he was offered. He thought he would be offered more. He said that when he had conversations with Bob Castellini, Walt Jocketty, about his contract, they said they really didn't have the money to fork out, and then they offered Joey Votto that 10-year, $200+ million deal, and I think Brandon Phillips was really hurt by that. I think Brandon Phillips was really offended by the fact that they said they didn't have money to throw around, and then they went and signed Joey Votto to a 10-year deal. So just a couple things throughout the year that just kind of showed Brandon Phillips off in a negative light. Again, Brandon Phillips, I think, is the face of the Cincinnati Reds in a sense. Outside of Joey Votto, I think, is the cornerstone of this club, and then Brandon Phillips is kind of like the fan favorite. He's obviously very involved in Twitter and social media. So when you think about that, Brandon Phillips is very liked by the fan base here in Cincinnati. Although with the certain incidences that happened this season, you get the sense that a lot of fans don't like him as much, or didn't view him as that fan favorite anymore, because of maybe his attitude toward C. Trent, maybe his attitude toward front office for not offering him a larger contract, saying they didn't have the money to throw around. And I guess it was nothing personal, he said, against Joey Votto or the ownership, really, but he was just offended by the fact that they said they didn't have money to throw out, and then they did it for Joey Votto and not himself, when he felt like he should have received more or received a larger contract. But so when you think about it, Brandon Phillips, again, like I said, fan favorite in Cincinnati. Always has been since he's been here, and maybe always will be. I don't really know exactly how fans perceive him since those incidences this offseason, or this season. But like I said, the rumors have just been swirling that Brandon Phillips could potentially be traded, and I'm not going to go into like I'm not going to go into speculation about where he will be traded, who he would be traded to, for who. But I do want to touch a little bit about, will he be traded? Is that a potential to happen? And I guess in the grand scheme of things, yes, it is a potential to happen. I guess anyone has the potential to be traded. But the rumor I'm hearing, which just doesn't make sense to me personally, is that the Atlanta Braves are interested. Obviously, that specific situation does make sense. I'm not saying he's going to be traded there. I think he could be traded, but it's not necessarily to the Atlanta Braves. I guess the big rumor is that the Atlanta Braves are interested, and that the Reds might be interested in a guy like Dan Uggla. The reason that doesn't make sense to me, and I don't foresee that happening, is one, Dan Uggla has a huge contract, so it's not going to make sense to unload Brandon Phillips' contract for a guy like Dan Uggla, who has a large contract as well. And then you also look at Dan Uggla's numbers. Dan Uggla's numbers, he hit about 179 this year, I think. He hit in the 170s, 180s, somewhere around there. Obviously, he has the pop. He can produce runs, but at the same time, if you trade Brandon Phillips, who produced over 100 RBIs this season and hit 260, you're taking 100 points off the batting average, and you're taking 100. Maybe I don't know how many RBIs Dan Uggla ended up having. I'm not really looking at that in front of me. I'm just going off what I've read, and I mean, you look at that production. You're going to have to, if you replace Brandon Phillips with Dan Uggla, you got to replace that production somehow, somewhere else in the lineup, and that's just not going to happen, I don't think, unless they sign a left field power bat in the offseason or something like that, or someone steps up their production, i.e. maybe Todd Frazier produces more runs, maybe Zach Cozart produces more runs. In the grand scheme of things, that deal in particular doesn't make sense. Could Brandon Phillips potentially be traded, though? Absolutely, with all that has gone on this season, this past season. And I mean, you look at how much money the Reds have to spend and how much money Brandon Phillips is locked up right now, and you get the suspicion that it could potentially happen. The Reds could unload some money off of Brandon Phillips or trading Brandon Phillips and getting. And then opening up some money for free agency, stuff like that. But the particular rumor that's swirling around just does not make sense on paper to me, and I just don't foresee that happening again in the long run, because Dan Uggla, again, large contract. You're going to have to replace production somewhere else in the lineup, and I just don't see that happening. I don't see the Reds wanting to part with that production. So Brandon Phillips very well could be a Red come the 2014 season next year. So he could potentially still be here in Cincinnati. Then again, on the other hand, I don't know the inner workings of the clubhouse. I don't know the inner workings of how he got along with everybody. I did hear that I don't know exactly who it was. It was an unnamed person, but someone that has been in the clubhouse every day. So it could be a clubhouse guy. It could be a coach, a manager, a player, whoever. They basically said to Brandon Phillips, you could not tell whether Brandon Phillips went 0 for, or you couldn't tell if the team won or lost, but you could tell if Brandon Phillips went 0 for 4 or 2 for 4 on a given day, even if they won or lost. So Brandon Phillips was very much so a self-promoter. He did not really care much about the team in a sense, because he didn't really, again, they said you couldn't really tell if the team won or lost. He didn't really care about that. He cared about his personal success, his personal 0 for 4, 2 for 4 day. You could tell if he went 0 for 4 because he was moping around, stuff like that. And then you could also tell if he went 2 for 4 because he was all energetic, all happy, even if the team lost or won. So you look at all that. All that being said, Brandon Phillips could potentially be traded this offseason. That's all yet to be seen. But Brandon Phillips, in my opinion, I think he's going to remain a Cincinnati Red. I think you'll see him in the 2014 season as the member of the Cincinnati Reds. So, guys, thanks for tuning in to Redlegs Ramblings and the MLB Talk 101. Have a great day.